comedy label. And in fact, when Brian Epstein desperately took us on, or I hoped we would take him on, he felt he'd hit rock bottom because he'd been everywhere else, and now he was ending up on a comedy label. I first met the Beatles in 1962. I wasn't terribly impressed with the first stuff they did. I couldn't make out the sound, you know, it was something I hadn't heard before. So I looked at these four guys and thought, well, none of them shines as being above all the others, and I had to make up my mind, in my silly mind, who the lead singer was going to be. Suddenly I realised I would take them as they were, as a group. The hell with the lead singer. They would be singing together. So we were struggling with the sound a bit, and I said to the boys, after we'd done a few takes of rather nondescript songs, I said, come into the control room and have a listen and see what we've been doing. And if there's anything you don't like, tell us. And George was the one who took the leap. And he said, well, I don't like your tie for a start. And the others were horrified. They thought, God, he's blown it. But of course, I fell around laughing. I thought it was so cheeky and so funny that you know, he endeared himself to me on that point.
I give her all my love, that's all I do. And if you saw my love, you'd love her too. I love her.
John and I would write the songs the week before the studio. Brian would ring us up, Brian Epstein, he'd say, you're in the studio next week, you've got a week off. We'd go, yes! He'd say, but you've got to write the album. We'd go, yes! So we just, you know, each day we'd write a song, so we kind of have 7 or so songs to go in with, which was, you know, enough to start with. And we'd go in the studio, 10 in the morning, and this was the first time George and Ringo had heard any of the songs. So this is how good they were. So John and I would go, it goes like this, you know, she loves you, yeah, yeah, or whatever it was. And they'd go, mm-hmm. George would cop the chords. He'd go, mm-hmm. You know, writing them down. It's just like, yeah. Because, you know, I can see what you're doing, because I'm one of you. You know, I didn't write it, but I see what you did. And Ringo would just stand around with his sticks and just do a little thing. And I was just thinking actually about my song, And I Love Her. I give her all my love. I had that. But then George comes in with do-do-do-do. Now you think about that, that's the song. You know, but he made that up on the session because he knew the chords, and he just said, well, you know, we said it needs a riff. I didn't write that.
When we got together in the studio, whoever had written the song would be the kind of boss in leading the other guys through it. Paul and John being the songwriters, and at that stage, George wasn't showing himself to be a songwriter. They were the dominant forces. George and Ringo were slightly behind Paul and John because Paul and John were the writers and the lead singers. I guess George was a kind of a loner, really. And because he was outside the team that were providing the hits, John and Paul had each other to play against. And their collaboration was much more of a competition than a collaboration, really. One would do something and the other one would say, gosh, I think I can do better than that, and try and make something better. George was the sole guy. He had no one to work with.
The funny position I was in was that in many ways, you know, this whole focus of attention was on the Beatles, so in that respect I was part of it. But from being in them, an attitude came over, which was John and Paul. Okay, you know, were the grooves, and you two, you know, just watch it. I mean, don't forget, I spent 10 years in the back of a limousine with them.
Don't bother me, this is a remake recording. calling it take 10.
That
Yeah,
Don't
if
Bother
things
Me,
you've got,
that's the first song. Again, it was written basically as an exercise to see if I could write a song, because I thought, well, if John and Paul can write, everybody must be able to write.
Since she's been gone, I want no one to talk to me. Hang on, it's going to.
Take 12.
1, 2.
I wrote that in the hotel in Bournemouth. We were doing the summer season. I was sick in bed. Maybe that's why it turned out Don't Bother Me.
Yeah.
But it's not a particularly good song, but it at least showed me that, you know, all I needed to do was keep on writing, and maybe someday I'd write something good, which I still feel, right at this point, I still think I wish I could write something good.
Since she's been gone, I want no one to talk to me. It's not the same, but I'm to blame, it's plain to see. So go away, leave me alone, don't bother me. I can't believe that she would leave me on my own. It's just not right when every night I'm all alone. I've got no time for you right now, don't bother me. I know I'll never be the same if I don't get her back again, because I know she'll always be the only girl for me.
When I saw George and Patty together, the way they fit into the Beatles thing of all of their domesticity seemed to be like Camelot, you know. It was like, and I was the Lancelot in a way. I was kind of this lone wolf without really any direction. I saw the Beatles play at the Hammersmith Odeon when I was at bottom of the bill in the Yardbirds. This band was like, they were like a single person. It was an odd phenomena, in fact. They seemed to move together and think together. It was almost like a little family unit. I was very, very suspicious about what they were up to. But when I saw them play, I mean, I was overwhelmed by their gift. You know, each one of them seemed to be very well endowed with their own musical capacity. But the sad part was that no one listened to them. And that their audience, which they had cultivated, I suppose, they were, you know, 12-year-old girls. He was clearly an innovator. George, to me, was taking certain elements of R&B and rock and rockabilly and creating something unique. They were very generous to everybody. I mean, they took time to come and talk to everybody. I didn't feel threatened at all because I had quite a lot of self-confidence going in my concept of myself as being, you know, this sort of blues missionary, as it were. And I, you know, I wasn't looking for any favours from anybody. And George recognised me as an equal because I had a level of proficiency even then that he saw as being fairly unique too, you know. George chose to move into a house in Esher, and Esher is, well, maybe 8 miles north of where I was born. We became friends, and I would go and visit them there, and something grew out of the music and the kind of people we were. I think we shared a lot of tastes too, in other, you know, superficial things, cars or clothes, but and women, obviously.